Welcome to Demystifying Electric Vehicles, how to accelerate EV adoption at your business. This is the second event in our 2022-2023 event series. And with these events, we hope to provide resources to local organizations on varied topics around sustainability. You can stay in the loop on Green Economy Peterborough news and events by signing up for our quarterly e-newsletter, where we focus on all things green business in Peterborough and the Kawarthas. For any new faces here today, Green Economy Peterborough is a local program and network that helps member businesses to identify, set, and achieve sustainability goals while improving their bottom line. Through coaching, educational opportunities, peer networking, and events, Green Economy Peterborough helps members to make reductions in emissions, water and waste, and engaged in other sustainability practices. So we are proud to be a project of Green Up locally and one of many hubs in the Green Economy Canada network. So our network is a place for leaders who are ready to challenge the status quo and make the transition to a vibrant and inclusive net zero future. If that is you and you aren't already a member, please note that we are recruiting now for our network of local leaders to start in January. If you are interested or know someone else who might be, please connect with us to learn more. Jackie's going to put those links into the chat for you. Make it super simple, one click. Several of our organizations are here today. I see Adila from Jigsaw Organizing Solutions. I see folks from the city. I see Angela from Green Street. Welcome everyone, thank you for being here. What we've heard from our members is that as small businesses, they lack the time and capacity to do this research and find new opportunities that might be available to them. Jackie and I work to put together our e-newsletter and information-packed events like this one to highlight opportunities that would benefit businesses here in Peterborough and the Kawarthas and benefit us all collectively. We have four great speakers, fantastic speakers, who will share their expertise and personal experience, help us navigate all the options out there, and help us accelerate the rollout of EVs. So many puns for this, so many puns. We have Jennifer Heagle, founder of Red Apron in Ottawa, up first. I'm just going to mute someone here. Little noise. There we go. We have Shelley Strain up second, Sustainability Coordinator at Trent. We have James here from the City of Peterborough to give us an update on their initiatives. And then we have Donald Jantz, last but not least, from Green Economy Canada to talk about charger incentives. All right, stop my share. I'm going to open Jennifer's slides. Jump right in here.
You good?
I think so.
I'm not seeing the slides
yet. Not yet. 1 second. Thank you, everybody. I've lost my Zoom window. There we go. All right.
So maybe while Natalie's getting up the slide, if everybody can hear me, I can just tell you a little bit about the Red Apron. The Red Apron is a prepared food business that's been operating in Ottawa since 2006. So when we conceived of our business, the intention out of the gate was that we would cook food and deliver it to people's homes. So we've been doing deliveries since 2006. Today we are delivering to about 150 homes a day, about 500 portions of food, and that goes out from our location to our customers every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then special occasions as well. So we've been committed to doing things as greenly as possible since the beginning of our business. We've always done things like send our compostable edibles to farmers who feed them to their pigs. We try to continually improve on our packaging solutions. So our latest effort has been to adopt a Canadian product, which is a 100% reusable product from an organization called Friendlier in Guelph. So all of our containers that our products go out in come back to us. They get re-sanitized, repackaged, and then sent back to us for reuse. And up until 2018, I think we can go to the next slide now. Up until 2018, we were doing our deliveries primarily using contracted drivers. So we would always have anywhere between 2 and 4 or 5 drivers on the road that were contracted through various delivery services. And in 2018, we made the big decision and the bold decision to invest into fully electric Chevy Bolt EVs. So, so those were, we traded in a Ford Transat, and we bought these 2 electric vehicles, and we started hiring drivers in-house to do our deliveries in our own vehicles. And so that went extremely well for us. So we just started buying more electric vehicles. So in 2020, we bought our 3rd Bolt, put our 3rd own employed driver on the road. 2022, we purchased another Bolt. It was the EUV. 2023, we purchased the 4th one. And 2022, we purchased our 4th vehicle. And then in 2023, just a month or 2 ago, we decided, in order to try to keep our fleet current, we would, because these cars are hard to get. You're on waiting lists for a really long time to get them. And our name came up in the waiting list lottery, because we've always got our name on a waiting list. And so we decided, okay, we'll take the new Bolt. And we sold our 2018, one of the first 2 that we purchased. It had about 100,000 kilometers on it, which is pretty meaningless in electric vehicle terms. It had a brand new set of batteries because of a recall that Chevy had. And we were able to sell it at a sort of a really good price to an employee. But it was 70% of the original purchase price that we paid for the vehicle in 2018. And in truth, we probably could have gotten closer to 80%, but we wanted to make it affordable for our staff member. So, so the resale value on these vehicles is extremely high. I think we can go to the next slide now, Nat. We put together a little video just to show you the fleet, and it has a little surprise ending, but these are the vehicles that we use every day to deliver our food. So we have 4 or 5 drivers on the road every day. They're heading out to do 2 separate runs with food. They come back, they reload, they go back out on the road again, and then they and so that's our fleet. Oops.
I don't know why it's not running for me.
And you can also see in this video some of the other initiatives that we have, like our permeable parking lot. So we're really blessed to have a very large parking lot right in the center of Ottawa. And we were the first commercial application of this product called Eco Raster, which is fully permeable. We've been through a full cycle, a full winter. It's been really great. It drains quickly. It's not slippery to walk on or ride on. And then I don't know what's wrong with the video, but when you see the last video, the last car go, maybe just skip to the end.
Yeah, it's weird. I can't see it either. It's
okay.
Kind of like,
so it won't even go.
We practiced this, folks. I don't know.
There we go. You're almost there.
There we go.
So you can see those bins that are lined up along the back, and that's one of my business partners. She's very excited about our electric vehicles too. But those smaller bins, those are the compost buckets that the farmer comes and picks up twice a week and takes with him. So I think we can go to the next slide now. So one of the things that we didn't know when we bought our first 2 vehicles was, what does it actually cost to operate an electric vehicle? And what we found out very quickly in the first, with the first 2 vehicles, was it really costs nothing to operate these vehicles. The entire maintenance bill that we've had to date for the first 2 vehicles that we purchased was to put new brakes in, and that was put in, when the vehicles had about 100,000 kilometers on them. So for the first 2 years, we would call the dealership regularly and say, like, is there any maintenance that we should be doing? And they really didn't even know how to answer that question. So I was able to pull off of a Chevy website, this is their recommended maintenance routine. And you can see from the list that there really isn't much maintenance required. In terms of operating costs, because we're operating a food business, which is utility intensive, it's very difficult for us to identify the charging costs. So we have 2 level 2 chargers outside, and we charge the cars using those level 2 chargers. But to be able to identify the cost of the hydro on our hydro bill, it's really difficult because it's nothing compared to operating the rest of our facility. So very low cost to operate, very little maintenance. We've had pretty much no downtime. We've had, so few issues with these vehicles that we can't even really put a number on it. The next slide, we can talk a little bit about some research that I did. Well, one of the big issues that we had was range anxiety. Is this gonna cause us to feel very anxious? And the truth is that for in-town driving, and we're putting about 100 to 150 kilometers on each of the vehicles every day, these vehicles hold a charge of 300 to 450 kilometers. So we're able to do the complete run on one charge. We still get back to home base with 100 to 200 kilometers left, and the vehicles charge overnight and they're fully charged and ready to go the next day. In the winter, you do lose some charge, so that drops the top end from 450 to 300 in some cases. But again, it's still ample charge to get through our delivery runs. Most EV owners do very close to 100% of their driving, within a few kilometers of home. And it's more than possible to keep the vehicle charged up just using a regular wall outlet. So there's not a need to have a fancy charger at home. We've just installed some at home just because they came with the new vehicles. So with the level 2 charger, we can charge the cars fully in 2 to 3 hours. We rarely see them fall below 100 kilometers unless we've been really negligent about keeping them plugged in. We do find that taking them on long distance road trips is a bit more challenging. And so that's not the nature of our business. That's not something we have to do very often. So it doesn't really impact us negatively. But if it was a personal vehicle and I was going to do a drive to Toronto, the last time I tried to do that, it was a bit of a challenge. And you have to factor in time for charging and find the chargers and find the ones that are properly rated. As if it says it's a supercharger, not always is it a supercharger. But I think the infrastructure is improving every year, and hopefully within the next 5 years we'll see those problems be eliminated. But it's not quite as simple as pulling up to the gas pump, and you do kind of have to plan out your trip. I think the next slide. So, in order to put a cost on the electricity to keep our fleet going, it's very, very difficult. But some of the research and some of the consultants that I talked to said you would basically generate as much CO2 as burning 1 liter of gas to drive 500 kilometers in a Chevy Bolt. So we know that we are saving money with these vehicles. We know that when we had a gas-powered vehicle and we only had one, we were spending more money every year maintaining that vehicle than we spend on our entire fleet of 5 vehicles in a year. We know that it's costing us much less to drive, much less in maintenance. So from our perspective as a business, it was a very, very good business decision, and it's one that we will only go forward. We won't go back. And that's about all I can tell you about our fleet.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring. Also, thank you for introducing your own business and yourself while I was having the screen struggles. Much appreciated. I will do better for the next folks, I hope. And again, if you do have questions for Jennifer and about her experience, throw them in the chat or hold them to the end, and we hope to get to your question. Amazing. Next up, we have Shelley Strain from Trent University, the sustainability coordinator up at Trent. Shelley has a breadth of experience in environmental education and outreach, program development, waste diversion, and energy efficiency that spans the private, public, and not-for-profit sectors. While at Trent, she has worked on initiatives such as campus-wide composting, LEED construction projects, the new zero carbon forensics building, retrofits, making Trent an all LED campus, and much, much more. She supports and works closely with students daily and teaches a course called Sustainability at Work in Fleming's Ecosystem Management program. Also, kudos to Shelley for being involved in numerous committees on and off campus, working to advance sustainability through a variety of channels. She's also a board member at Green Economy and a key resource in the community for sustainability implementation. So all right. I'm going to go ahead and do my best to share your slides too, Shelley.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Natalie. So I guess similar to Jennifer, although I'm very impressed with what we just saw, we have one electric vehicle in our fleet. So the focus more for me is as an organization who welcomes people in daily, thousands of people coming to campus, and we're trying to get ahead of the idea that people are going to be wanting to charge their vehicles here. So my section of the presentation is going to be on the process of getting charging stations on campus, what that looks like, and trying to relate it to things that are accessible to everybody. So supporting electric vehicle adoption at Trent. Next slide, Natalie. So the point where we're at right now is that we initially started when people started coming to campus saying, I've driven my car here. It was at the beginning where people were very concerned about the range. Some people drove quite a ways to work and really wanted to be able to top up when they were here. So we sort of thin edge of the wedge, we just started and we said, you know what, we have block heater plugs. You can just plug into those. So we definitely had unmonitored outlets across campus that let people with EVs feel comfortable that they could come to campus and not find themselves in any kind of position where they couldn't get home again. We're now at the point where we have 5 EV charging stations with a total of 10 ports. And we have different kinds that I'll be able to show you. We have 2 wall-mounted ones, which were our original EV installations. It's cheaper to install those. And then down in the bottom right corner, that's the one on our Durham campus in Oshawa. And it was a pedestal station because that was the best location for us in terms of electricity availability. The one on the top right is our newest one, and it's actually not even online yet. And it's very exciting. So we can charge 4 cars in that little area, but we also have it covered. It's connected to a number of other sustainability initiatives. So it's covered with solar, and the solar is super cool. So because it's double-sided, so when you put it on your roof, it just generates electricity from one side. But because this is over a parking lot, any sunshine that goes down and bounces off the cars actually gets captured on the underside of these panels, which is exciting. And it's also connected to our battery storage system that we just built on campus. So we have a wide range of different ways that an organization might do this, might offer charging at their location. So different than Jennifer, we had to think about it from basically servicing clients. People are coming here, they're looking for this service. How do we offer that? So one of the things on our campus is we have paid parking. So these are public use, sort of, because you do actually still have to have a parking permit to be able to come and charge your vehicle here. The system that we use is ChargePoint. So anybody who has an electric vehicle, they will have the ChargePoint app on their phone. And when they go to any one of these EV stations, they can connect into it to be able to charge their vehicle. Again, because we've chosen a variety of different options, and I'll get to the reasons why as I go through. The costs have ranged anywhere from $13,000 to $100,000. We do apply for the funding, which I know Donald is going to talk about. So we typically get half of this cost, close to half of this cost back. And obviously the one with the solar array on top of it is going to be substantially more expensive than one that we stick on the side of a building right beside an electrical room. Natalie, go to the next slide. Okay, so the process. I really would like to convey that it's not that hard. So the title of our presentation being Demystifying the Adoption of Electric Vehicles, I think it can be intimidating when you don't know where to start. But the reality is there are businesses who will offer you turnkey options and you just phone them and they'll walk you through it. It's not, it's really not rocket science, and you don't have to be an expert. There's lots of people out there offering expertise and help. And again, I'm part of the Peterborough Hub. If anybody wanted to get in touch, I would be happy to offer any help that I could. So it's important to know who your users are. I'm just making an assumption, but I think Jennifer has private charging for her private fleet and nobody's coming in and using that. We have one electric vehicle in our fleet. So ours is primarily for external users. So you need to make a couple of decisions. You need to decide on what charging level. Jennifer said she had level 2 chargers, and I'm going to go through the different charging types. The initial charging that we offered, where we said, just plug in, that's considered charging level 1. And there are also the superchargers that Jennifer referred to. We get into level 3, and sometimes people call them level 4. One thing that's extremely important is locations. So I've said prime locations for visibility and convenience because I want people to be able to see them. I want them to use them. I want them to know that they're there so people can feel comfortable that they're going to come to our campus and be able to charge their vehicle. We do have one that's completely hidden that's for our own personal, like for our own fleet vehicle, and we don't want people coming and plugging into that one. So think about who you want to use it and where it makes the most sense to put it. And then you're probably going to be trumped by your electrical service. So the idea that there are places where you would like to have it, you then have to align that with how close it is to the available power and what that available power is. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And then, yeah, what is that available power? And then, so then you work through these two things. Where would you like it and where does it seem to make sense? And then you shortlist that and get some quotes and then apply for your funding. Shelley? Okay, so charging level or speed. You've heard us say 1, 2, 3, and basically they go in order. 1 is slow. They call it a trickle charge. So any electric vehicle can just plug into an outlet and charge super duper slow. So this is what most people do at home. They plug them in, they charge overnight. It takes a really long time to fully charge, but usually people are just topping up after they've arrived back home at the end of the day. We do let people do this at Trent. We have a number of outlets out in our parking lots, and people do this all the time. The ones that we've chosen to install are level 2 chargers. That's an average charging speed. And because it charges faster, more cars per day can use it. So we can top up 3 to 4 cars per day. And then level 3 are the really fast ones. So where people just stop for a very short period of time. And those are more popular on sort of major traffic areas like the 401, where people want to stop for a half an hour and get a good charge and keep moving on. They are also very expensive. So when I say that our range was 13,000 to 100,000, sometimes the level 3s can be like $80,000 just on their own. And we haven't had any real demand on our systems yet that would justify us going to that kind of cost. And then level 3, sometimes people say level 4 as well. It's a super fast charger and it's exclusively for Tesla users. So we're now, slide Natalie. So now about how we charge. So the idea that we're going to have all kinds of different people with all kinds of different electric vehicles attending our campus, we need to make sure that we're understanding their needs and making the stations accessible to them. So I feel like the configurations of the outlets are something that really sinks people. They're like, there's so many, and I Google and there's pictures of like, I don't know, 20 different things. It's actually really quite simple. The level 1 is a regular standard outlet like you would have in your house. And level 2, any vehicle can plug into it. So if you kind of step back from how confusing these outlets look, each car can use the level 2 charging, but each car also comes with an adapter that can plug from the car to the wall rather than from the charger to the car. So it gives them the opportunity to adapt it themselves. I'm not going, just for time, I'm not really going to get into the idea of AC and DC, but actually I'm going to a little bit. Next slide, Natalie. Okay, so electrical requirements. This is actually, I think for me, it's what makes or breaks every project. And it totally hijacks where I would like to put the charging stations. I would like them to be in prime areas for convenience where everybody can see them. We have pay and display terminals in the middle of some of our parking lots. I would love to marry up our EV charging stations with those. Perhaps at some point down the road, we'll be able to run the additional electrical services out there. But at this point, that makes our projects cost prohibitive. The idea of running an electrical service any kind of distance sinks me every time. So when you look at the pictures that I showed you initially, where we really, the first two, we attach them to the outside of buildings. We look at different locations on campus that would be sort of, and then we looked for where's the electrical room in this building and where's the shortest run of electricity that's going to cost us the least to get a station outside. So electrical is definitely a very significant consideration when you're looking at installing, but it's also not as scary as it sounds either. So level 1, it's a household outlet. So this is what a lot of people use at home. Some people install level 2s, but that's a really accessible outlet. Like there's nothing fancy about that electricity. It's just like what we have in our houses. Level 2 is very similar to a stove outlet or a dryer outlet. So again, it's not, it's specific and you have to make sure that there's enough power for it, but it's not something that's inaccessible for most organizations. Where you get into more complicated aspects of electricity is when you get into those fast charging, and the fast charging is DC charging, and you need sort of commercial or industrial level power. So if you think about large commercial or industrial level, large commercial or industrial buildings, they have significantly higher power needs, and therefore they have power available at higher levels and sort of accessible in a different way. So if you have a business like that, you're probably going to know about that. But if you don't have a business like that, level 1 and 2 really are very accessible. So it's very important to make sure that you have the power that you need and that you have it where you need it, because getting it somewhere else is extremely expensive. So monitoring. So because we operate our own charging system on campus, we also, ChargePoint also gives us a dashboard so that we can understand how our customers, students, clients are charging on campus. We only have a small number of charging ports, and so our annual cost for the software is $1,770. We've chosen just the absolute basic service level. And if we exceed, like if we get up to the next threshold, I think it's if we have 12 ports, we then need to pay more. So there's certain thresholds that you get to, and it increases your costs. We charge users $1.50 an hour, and we make no money. So our highest month to date has been $155 of revenue from our EV chargers. And ChargePoint gives us this, our end of the software system where we can really understand. We know how many times people are charging, how long they stay there for. It gives us all kinds of data about how the chargers are being used on campus. We have one more slide, Natalie. And then they also give us a very detailed report. So the dashboard that I just showed you gives us sort of the summary of use. And then if we want to understand in greater detail how those summaries have been developed, we can dig into this billing report and we can see all kinds of information about what time people are using them at and how much each session is, each charge is being charged for their charging. And that's it from our perspective. So our parking office monitors the use of the EV stations. And currently we find that our Durham campus has significantly higher use than our Peterborough campus. And often, like even taking pictures for this presentation, often the parking spots are empty. We don't have a huge uptake on campus yet, but we do know that we need to be ahead of it if people are going to be comfortable in buying the vehicles, knowing they can come to Trent. And we definitely, from a sustainability perspective, want to support that.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelley. I want to just ask the quick question that Donald put in the chat because before we move on is, does Trent have plans to electrify their fleet?
Oh, I muted myself when you asked that. It's not that we don't have plans to electrify our fleet, but I guess we have notions to electrify our fleet. We're excited to get our first EV, but we bought it used. And we do find that the wait lists, the cost, and the available vehicles are barriers for us. So most of our fleet, we have about 40 vehicles, and most of them are service vehicles. So they're larger vehicles that service staff carry, like equipment and ladders and supplies, and we just haven't seen it become super accessible for us yet, but we've got our eye on it for sure.
I want to get to Rob, but I also know I need to get to James. Rob, can you hold your question for like 15 more minutes?
I sure can.
Thank you. I just thought it was extremely topical to ask that question before we moved on here, because we have James Byrne, the climate change specialist at the City of Peterborough, with some of the same initiatives and ideas as Trent at the city. So James has been with the City of Peterborough since 2020 as its climate change specialist, working on climate action projects and GHG emission inventories for both community and corporate sectors. Previously, James worked with Sustainable Peterborough, supporting Peterborough County, its townships, First Nations, and the city to develop GHG emissions inventories and report updates. James, you're going to run your own slides. Is that still the plan?
It's still the plan. Just give me one second. All right, hold on. Oops.
Awesome.
All right, we're in.
We're in.
Okay, well, hi everyone. Thanks, Natalie, for inviting me to tell everybody on the call about what the City of Peterborough is doing for installing electric vehicles in the community and also for our corporate fleet. So I'll start off from the very beginning. The City of Peterborough has a climate change action plan that was developed and adopted by Council in 2016. In that plan, there is two main streams. We have the community plan and the corporate plan. In the community plan, there is a strategy to support the shift to electric vehicles. And also in our corporate plan, a little bit more vague language, but it was for low emission and alternative fuel vehicles because our corporate fleet, similar to Trent's University, is we have a lot more heavy duty vehicles. So back when this is written in 2016, the EVs were not even considered for those heavy duty vehicles. But both of those strategies, if you just, water them down to the most, their simplest form is electric vehicle charging stations are needed to help us to move forward. Recently, we completed a community inventory And our most recent year was in 2020, and we calculated that community vehicles in Peterborough, and those vehicles that include private commercial vehicles, gasoline and diesel, all the travel within the city and some travel that they can enter and leave the city, produce 275,000 tons of CO2 emissions. For the same year, our corporate fleet, which includes all of our public works vehicles, our transit buses, and all the other auxiliary vehicles that we have that the city owns, turned out to about 6,000 plus tons. So it's a significant amount of emissions that needs to be reduced. And so beginning to support the adoption of EVs and transitioning only can begin with electric vehicle stations being brought forward. So we started in 2020, ironically the same year that we looked at our inventory, and we thought we have to begin this transition. So NRCan, similar to probably everybody on this call, they are offering money through their zero emission vehicle infrastructure program. So we joined a joint application with other municipalities in 2020. Of course, the timing of this was the wrong time because it coincided with the beginning of the pandemic, and NRCan protracted and delayed awarding anybody through that submission window because not knowing the full extent of what the pandemic what was going to cost the federal government. But eventually, almost a year later, they approved our application. So in 2021, we started to work with our consultant and contractor, Alexicon Group, which is the utility provider in Durham region. From there, we cited for our corporate facilities 4 different buildings that services the parking enforcement, our transit operations, and transit operations, not the buses, but for our light duty fleet vehicles that we have, public works, and our wastewater treatment plant. And we installed just recently in October, installed 16 charging points, charging ports, all level 2s, as Shelley already talked about. So the goal for this is by having all these electric vehicle charging stations in place, we can then begin to purchase electric vehicles. Currently, we only have 1 vehicle that the city owns that I believe was new. But there's always been a hesitation because we do not have the infrastructure in place. And so having that, having these in place now will allow all of our fleet purchasers to now consider the vehicles that make the most sense for the different levels of service that vehicle would have to do. So we have, initially, we have a lot of light duty vehicles that could begin to be swapped out as regular intervals of replacement. In general, that's every 5 to 7 years, depending on the vehicles and their use. So we have a couple of vehicles on order. Again, COVID and high demand has really extended the time to receive those vehicles. So we'll probably get them maybe sometime in 2023, I think in the spring or summer. Not that we want them earlier, but we understand that many entities want the same kind of vehicles. And we are significantly looking at those utility style, like pickup truck EV vehicles. And those are only just getting onto the market now. So that may be a couple of years before we'll have an option to get those, at least a new one. If any used ones come on the market, I'm sure they won't really last that long, but if we have an option to get one of those, we would love to try them out. But right now, light duty vehicles that have been out the market for many years is what we're thinking about. And so the total cost of this corporate project, and I'm going to talk to you a second about the community side one, came to $289,000. And because NRCan has their incentives, we will be receiving $126,000 in returns. So for our public stations, because the city, we really want to promote adoption of electric vehicles in Peterborough. Currently, there's only a very small percentage of our residential fleet of vehicles are made up of EVs. So it could be a reason why Trent University hasn't seen many EVs parked in their parking lots, because there's not many in Peterborough residents who are using them. So all the other reasons we've talked about through range anxiety, initial cost is a bit higher than a normal internal combustion engine would be. There's tremendous savings, obviously. So the city, through that same NRCan funding, we installed at 2 locations 4 EV chargers each. One is I'm going to put this highlighter on for 1 second to make it easy for everyone. So we have here at Del Craig Marina, we installed 4 stations there that just went online November 30th, so just a couple of days ago. And we have the other one at our Simcoe Street parking garage. We have 4 there as well. And the image from the last slide is from that station. And the 4 are there. And currently right now, because we really want to foment change, charging is free. There would be no cost to charge your vehicles. You can plug in and reap the reward. We also want to attract more people to it. So hopefully if they can get their hands on EV stations and they're driving downtown, they can plug in there. We also see that when we located these 2 stations in the downtown, because we see there's so many bonus effects. One is economic activity, because it does take time to charge your car. If you're not at a full, maybe you're halfway through your charge, you might have to stay an hour or 2. That helps our local businesses downtown to shop, eat, entertainment, whatever they want to do. And having these within our downtown brings more people to Peterborough who may be tourists or people passing through who may not normally go downtown, maybe just cut through and pass the city. So we see this as an attraction. The free charging is a little bit of that carrot which we see, and right now we need a lot of carrots to move people, because as we saw presented in the first slide, we have so many emissions attached to transportation. So again, as many people who can afford to move into electric vehicles through the federal subsidies that are right now available is very important. And hopefully we can grow our local resident EV market as well. And that is it. Hold on, what's going on? There we go. If anybody has any questions, you can email me to learn more about what the city's doing. And anything else, you can just speak with Natalie and she can get hold of me as well. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Amazing. You also didn't mention that there are other chargers in the city. Do you want to tell us where else there are chargers?
Oh, right. Yeah, the other chargers. So they preceded my time, but in 2017, Peterborough Distribution Incorporated, which has now been taken on by Hydro One. They, in partnership with Sustainable Peterborough, installed multiple level 2 stations throughout the city. Currently, there's a unit. I'm not sure if there's units, but there's a unit at the Riverview Zoo, at the zoo. Also, we have it at the Memorial Center and at Lansdowne Place at the shopping mall there. So you can charge there. They're currently ready to go. They do charge. It's also a very nominal fee. PDI now, Hydro One, just collects mostly just to recoup the basic electricity cost. But yeah, so the other ones are a City of Peterborough sole initiative. And we'll probably be installing more in the next year or 2 as demands require.
There's also one at the Tim Hortons on Water Street North, right by Trent, because that's where we used to send people before we had them. And we match their pricing, so they're $1.50 an hour as well.
Right. There's also more stations also on Lansdowne Street. There's a Tesla station also in the mall, and I think there's some of the like auto body shops. I think one of them has one as well. They're kind of hidden. I think you go on to one of the like plug and drive or whatever the website is to see the status of stations. They'll show all of them. Our stations will be hopefully added there. I'm not sure how it works, but that's what we're doing all this promotion right now.
Amazing. Okay, thank you, James. Angela, can you wait till Donald's done, or is it a very urgent question?
Nope, I can wait, no problem.
Oh, one more time. We're going to introduce Donald Jantz, last but not least. As Green Economy Canada's Partnerships Manager, Donald leads the EV Charger Infrastructure Investment Program funded by NRCan CVIP. He is excited about the opportunity to contribute to the build-out of EV charging infrastructure to help Canada achieve its 2030 target for 100% zero-emission vehicle sales and its 2050 net zero goal. He also works closely with GC partners across sectors and geographies to help businesses reach their sustainability goals. Donald brings deep and broad experience to his role, having served as a leader on boards for nonprofits, as a sustainability consultant to a variety of organizations, and as a business leader. Welcome, Donald, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the opportunity and for all the great presentations and applications. Really excited to see what's been happening around Peterborough. So what I'm going to be presenting today is basically the program you can apply to. We're a third-party distributor of funds from NRCan's ZVIP program. ZVIP often, and this is probably where some of the funding came from, some of the other applications, you can apply directly to them. If you're going to apply directly to them, you need to have pretty significant installations. So ours, third-party SaaS, allows us to provide funding basically up to 50% of the charge of installing a EV charger for low numbers. You can have one charger and that would be sufficient. So yeah, I'll run through some of our program that's gone through 2022, a bit of a overview of what the program takes, what you'll expect to be able to apply for, and the application process, and happy to answer any questions. So in 2022, we had a program, we had about $2 million to give out, and we've been able to give out most of that funding. Installed about 200, or in the process of installing 275 chargers. Some of the projects are going to drag on through a little bit. 268 level 2 chargers, 7 level 3. A number of our hubs have been able to have projects with their members. So Sustainable Waterloo had 14 level 2s. Corporate Climate Leadership Program in Edmonton had 5 level 2s and a couple level 3 chargers. And I'll go through some of the differences already spoken to a little bit. Green Economy London had 3 level 2s and 1 level 3. And New Brunswick, they're 1 level 2 and 1 level 2 charger. So we will have another set of funding available coming up. We're going to open funding to underrepresented groups in January. And then at the end of February, beginning of March, we'll open it to all applicants. Basically, the program that we have at Green Economy Canada is we have about almost $4 million from Natural Resources Canada, their ZVIP program. We can give up to $100,000 to each applicant. So there's a maximum number, which is about 20 level 2 chargers. And we want to give out funding for 350 plus chargers. And you can see we've already gotten very close to that. So we're doing well. Some of this has been spoken to in a certain way. So there's level 2 chargers. We don't provide funding for level 1 because basically any outlet has level 1. Level 2 chargers cost about $5,000 for each connector, and they charge around 4 to 10 hours to fill up a battery. Then there's fast chargers, and the way NRCan has broken out their funding, they have 3 levels of fast chargers. So 20 kilowatt to 49 kilowatt, and a maximum of 50% up to $15,000. Faster charger is 50 to 90 kilowatts and up to 50% of project costs reaching $50,000 per charger. And the fastest charger category that we provide funding for is just 100 kilowatts and above. And again, that can come to 50% or $75,000 per charger. So you can see that the costs of installing a level 2 probably around $10,000 depending on the exact situation. So we'll pay up to $5,000 of that. On the fastest charger, the total cost of installing, and all costs are eligible, can come to $150,000. Often it's more. If you need to replace a transformer, increase the grid service to a location, it can easily really mount up in terms of costs. But it's very fast and very convenient. So increasing demand for that as well. The types of costs that are covered under the program are quite comprehensive. So specifically EV charger, related equipment, infrastructure, you might have to upgrade an electrical panel. All those costs can be included as being eligible. You may have to do some renting or leasing if you're going to have to do trenching and you need, for your level 3 charger and you've got to redo the grid a little bit, you may have to rent a backhoe. Those kinds of costs would be included. Licenses and permits, in-house salaries and benefits. So if you have staff that are supporting all work, you can add up those hours and those costs can be included as eligible. HST, net of rebates, is eligible. Professional services such as engineering, construction, installation. You may have an engineer come in just to make sure what your grid capacity is, whether what type of installation you might require. Those costs are eligible, as well as environmental assessment costs. There's 4 types of there's 5 types of specifically eligible applications in our funding capacity. Public places are really prioritized. They want to try to make sure as many EV chargers as possible are available to public to encourage adoption. Multi-unit residential buildings, so that would be a use that might not be exactly accessible to the public, but it's something that wants to be encouraged. You need to be able to charge at home is the idea, and if you live in a multi-unit residential building, your home charging is in your lot inside your building, or it could be a surface lot. Workplace installations. So we've had quite a number of installations that would fit under this in 2022. If your staff want to be able to charge up, we will help fund those. And again, they may be partially publicly available, may not be, but it's an eligible application, as well as light duty vehicle fleets. We helped police service upgrade their electrical grid so that they could have some EVs in their fleet. And that was a great application, as well as on street. It can be a little more difficult in terms of permitting, but many jurisdictions are making that easier. Again, you may not have a garage and you want to be able to charge at home and put in a charger on the street, but you need to make sure you go through all the proper permitting opportunities for that. So to be eligible, you need to be a legal entity. We can't, or incorporated or registered in Canada or provincially. You can't be an individual. So legal entities that would typically qualify are Indigenous and community groups, businesses, incorporated landlords and property managers, utilities, academic institutions, condo corporations. There's a bit of a hoop sometimes, but it's your condo association is incorporated in some sense. So that's an eligible applicant, associations, as well as provincial, territorial, and municipal governments. What are ineligible are federal government departments or groups, private landlords, home-based businesses, and private residences. So technical requirements, there are some that you have to make sure you achieve. They must be your charger must be able to communicate with station, server, or the cloud. So we want it to be available on the web, and there's lots of different applications, including Google and others, so you can find an EV charger when you need to, and it's required that be the case. Installed equipment must be permanent and new, or an expansion of an existing installation, but we don't want to be replacing existing. We want to increase the availability of this infrastructure. And that's the next point. Replacement equipment is not eligible. Proprietary connector types cannot exceed 75% of installed connectors. So I've spoken to Tesla a bit. They can't make up a too higher proportion. In Europe, Tesla is actually has been forced to switch over so that they don't just have their charging stations aren't just proprietary, that they actually meet the more common code. Let's say it's not technically quite as elegant as Tesla's installation, but they're being forced to, and there's some discussion. Tesla's recently made it possible for you to buy converters, so their standard is more available. But that's not progressed very far in North America yet. There's no minimum number of required chargers. Like I said, you could have as few as one, and we have a number of those. And you can go up to 20 level 5s to get to that maximum of $100,000. 20 level 2s will take you to $100,000. And funding may be stacked with other sources. Total funding from government sources can cover 100% of costs. And this is most applicable in jurisdictions where there's, provincial or sometimes municipal funding. BC has a lot of this, Quebec as well. Not other jurisdictions haven't got that so much. So I'm just going to go through this quickly. I know we're kind of reaching our time. We have an application guide. You can actually probably access that information now, but we'll be formally opening in January to underrepresented groups, and then to other types of groups coming 6 weeks after that or so. But once you've installed so you need to be pre-approved. You need to be able to submit all the required documents. and get pre-approval from us, sign an agreement, and then you can go ahead and start incurring costs. And we'd like you to have your EV chargers installed within 8 months. Generally, excluding supply chain issues, it can take a relatively short amount of time. And hopefully some of those supply chain issues that we've been encountering this year will be a bit reduced. But that kind of sums up my presentation. So I'll hand that back to Natalie, and if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Donald. Much appreciated. Yeah, I want to throw the first question to Angela because she was hands up first. We've lost Rob, so we'll never know what his question was, but go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, my question was for James, and I was wondering about with the community stations that are already there, is there an outlet for electric bicycles and scooters?
Hello, I'm not too sure what the difference of the plug-in would be. It is the same plug that Shelley showed. It's like the common level 2 ones. If a scooter can plug into that, they can charge. If they can't, then it is for the vehicles that can have that kind of, I guess, disperse that electricity.
Okay, it's just a normal plug that would go into a household outlet. So I suppose there's not
No,
anything like
it's
that on the.
yeah. In the photo I had in my presentation, the plug is attached to the unit, and it is that singular vehicle charging one.
Guess we got to look at where we can charge those e-bikes, James. Throw it on the list.
Well, you can go at the Silver Bean. I'm sure they have a plug. You can go plug and have a coffee or ice cream. They're
sure
very nice. You should talk to them.
Dan would love to hear that.
They do have charging stations similar to the other ones for the e-bikes. The installation that I showed you with the solar array above it was supposed to have one on it, but somebody decided to move it somewhere else, so it's not in yet, but we are getting one of those on campus as well.
Good to hear.
A couple of questions in the chat from Stephen Moore. I think they're for Donald. Are farms that are structured as a sole proprietorship eligible? If not, would an incorporated farm business be eligible?
Yes, definitely incorporated farm business would be eligible. We've had a couple greenhouses, Heeman greenhouse in one of our hubs has been able to apply. So but you would need to be incorporated. Sole proprietorship, that's an excellent question. I think I'd have to check with Enercan just to confirm. It's certainly a possibility, but I think that it would be best if it were probably more straightforward if it's incorporated.
We can follow up on that if needed, Stephen. And the next question that he had is there a minimum number of employees required to qualify as a workplace?
No, there wouldn't be a minimum number of employees required. And often, depending on the workplace, if it is available to your employees as a workplace installation, if it's available to the public, then that makes it, really simple to allow it. But if it's, as long as the business is in an independent business, it's not a home-based business, then it would extremely likely it would qualify. It'd be no problem.
Awesome. I see Adila's hand up. You're muted, I think, maybe. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, for some reason, never mind, it's fine. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the presentation today. It was really interesting. And I was also curious, Donald, on your slide, it said that home-based businesses are not eligible for the grant. Does that count also if it's a service-based business where someone is driving the vehicle to a client's house, but technically their home is the business location?
Thanks for the question, and thanks for all the questions. Really appreciate it. Unfortunately, Enercan is quite strict, extremely strict about this. And yeah, if it's a home-based business in any regard, they basically, consider it as being home charging, which the program isn't set up to support. So it just wouldn't be eligible, unfortunately. Thanks.
We have another member with their hands up. This is Anne or Steve from Lake Edge Cottages. Oh, can't hear you, Steve, either. Wonder if it's our end.
If it helps, I had to change what my audio microphone setting was. I had to change it to same as system, if that's helpful.
If you maybe we'll move to Jeff's question, Steve, and if you can't figure it out, you can type it into the chat for us. Thanks for coming, though. Jeff?
Jeff Hoskin with Cambium. Question for Donald. What's the typical turnaround on an application through NRCan? And should I get quotes for charging stations prior to applying?
Excellent questions, and really happy for all this interest in the program. Definitely, you need to get quotes, and the turnaround in terms of applying to us to get approval to go ahead with the project typically takes 10 days, probably less.
Oh, wow.
The turnaround, once you submit, so that part of submission you're required to have, and I didn't go through all the details, but you're required to have quotes for what your cost will be. You need some pictures of the site where you want to put it. And that will set you up for us to approve. Then you install, and that can typically take, anywhere from, well, it usually takes a few weeks once you have all the components in place with your service provider. And then you submit all those. You submit documentation that it's, you've paid the different invoices. You provide pictures of the installations. You provide background, similar to the reports that University of Trent provided or showed. You can show that you're producing electricity and supplying it. And so then you provide all documentation to us, and then we submit it to NRCan kind of on your behalf, really. We don't get any funding prior to them. And it can take, unfortunately, we found several months for them to get back to us. We apply to them quarterly and get our funding back from them sometime after we apply. And we're finding that process can take 3-4 months to get the money back. And as soon as we get it back, it'll be instantly in your account. And we do get lots of feedback from folks who applied directly to NRCan or us. Going directly through NRCan, even if it's a larger amount, can be really painful. So we're hopefully front loading some of that pain, taking some of that weight off, but it is still a relatively slow process. So what we would say is from the day that you apply for funding, get approved, to the time when you get the funding back definitely can take some time. It will take months, but we are hopefully reducing the pain of that process and speeding it up by consolidating a whole bunch, 100 or tens of applications to NRCan. Hopefully that helps. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Sorry. I have experience going through NRCan, and what Donald's saying sounds so exciting to me. It really is a challenging process, and it can take so long with everything that's happened with supply chain issues in the last couple of years. We've had like staggering increases on our quotes from the time that we submitted them to the time we were ready to implement the work. So definitely Green Economy sounds like a great path. So I learned something here today. Thanks.
We're also here to help support those applications if you're a member, Jeff, hint, hint. And another member question, thank you, Steve, for putting it in the chat. If they're in the process of implementing a charger, are there any incentives available? At what point can they apply?
Yes, and that definitely you need to get pre-approval before you start incurring any costs. And our next stage of funding won't open up until the new year. So unfortunately, we can't say, oh, yeah, we can just squeeze that in, because all the dates would have to be changed, and it just doesn't work. So you need pre-approval. So if you can hold off until our application process opens up again, that would be great, but you need to have pre-approval to incur costs.
Awesome. We really want to see those Green Economy Peterborough members represented on the next, opportunity in the next slide deck. I have a question for Jennifer. It's really out of the blue. What's next for Red Apron with all these initiatives that you have already in place? Well, where do you go from here?
Well, the packaging was a big one for us. We just launched that in February, and that was something that we've been looking for the entire time that we were operating our business. So that was a really significant step for us, because we're using this, the packaging solution has an incentive for people to return the containers. And so through that incentive, if people don't want to take the financial incentive themselves, they can choose to donate it. So we're scanning these returned containers and accumulating money in a fund, and donating it back to the community, like through Parkdale Food Center, which is one of the food banks that operates in Ottawa. So just through the returns alone that have come back to us, we've donated somewhere close to $15,000 since last February, because people are using reusable packaging and returning reusable packaging, and allowing us to take that financial incentive and donate it to the community. So that's pretty new, and that's pretty exciting for us. And then, in terms of what's next, the car charger, debate. I mean, I'm very curious about this program, because the charging on site is a big challenge. It's getting the supply of the power and the cost of the materials. And yeah, that's, we could use another car charger, because we only have 2 and we have 5 cars. But I understand the hoops that you have to jump through and the challenges in terms of finding just the power itself for a level 2 charger. But I think what I would like to say to anybody thinking about investing in a electric car is the amount of occasions that you would have to use a public charger are very small. It really is something that you do at home 99% of the time. So don't let access to public chargers be a deterrent for you, because honestly, we've never used one. There's no need, and unless you're traveling, or you live in a situation where you can't get access to power, like some of the condominiums. I know that's an ongoing issue for a lot of condominiums. But if you live in a home or you have access to a wall outlet, you can buy an electric car and you'll never have to worry about how you're going to power it up.
Amazing. Okay, I think we're gonna, we're past time, but thank you everybody for sticking around for questions. If you do have any follow-up questions, let me know, reach out through our channels, and we can forward it on to our presenters. And I'm so grateful for all of you who've been here today. And thank you so much for your time and for filling us in on all of the gritty details about EVs. It's really appreciated. I just wanted to also wish everyone who's still here to have a happy holiday season. If we don't connect again, whenever that begins for you. For me, it's in another week and a half, but we're excited to see you all in the new year. So thanks again.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thanks.
Thanks. It was wonderful.